Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and this is 29th of November 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So apologies for missing yesterday's episode, everyone. I know I say that a lot, but I always like to apologize for missing episodes. Yesterday I actually had like quite a legit reason. I am on, or I guess like today's my last day of a round of antibiotics, and the last time I had antibiotics, I'm pretty sure was when I was a baby, or at least a very long time ago. So they made me really tired yesterday, and I just couldn't do a refuel. I was not in the state to do one, so I kind of decided to skip it there. But I'm back today, and there is a bunch of stuff to get through, so I'm not going to bore you the details of my personal life. Let's start off with a core dev update from Tim Byko here today. So as you guys know, Dencun is the next Ethereum upgrade. It is basically, I guess, feature complete. We're just going through the motions of testing it on the dev nets, then the test nets, then getting it on mainnet. And obviously, I've said before that I think that that's probably around March at this stage to get Dencun live. But work has already been kind of started for a little while now on the upgrade after Dencun, which is Prague slash Electra. So Prague for the execution layer and Electra for the consensus layer. Now, the EIPs that are included in this are already, well, not included in this, but are like up for discussion to be included in this upgrade, are already pretty well known, some of them, which I'll go through in a sec. But Tim Byko shared today in Ethereum Magician's thread, basically that will act as a way to discuss this next upgrade. So you can see here that in the there's a document here. Where was it? On this GitHub issue here, lists out the potential EIPs that are going to be going into that upgrade, or the kind of like Electra upgrade. I mean, I think they're trying to come up with a name for this upgrade, like to combine the two names, but I'm just going to call it Electra for now. But you can see here, I guess the most well-known EIP is probably EIP 7251, which is the one to increase the max effective balance of validators, which means that you can stake with more than 32 ETH as an effective balance on one validator. I think the latest proposal has it going up to 2,048 ETH, and this would result in a lot less validators on the network, but still the same amount of ETH stake. So the security would basically be the same. And I've explained before about how the reason why we have so many validators and the reason why this design was decided upon in the first place is because it was required to have a lot of validators for the original sharding designs, which are now changed. Like we're doing dank sharding now, we're doing data sharding, so we don't need to optimize for lots of validators, so we can consolidate here. And honestly, it's going to be an opt-in thing, and it's going to be kind of like interesting to see how much validators get consolidated, because it will be up to like the large providers rather than the smaller providers, obviously, to move the needle here. But I'm curious, because I know that there are some within the Lido community, for example, or the Lido kind of ecosystem, that aren't big fans of this. They think that it's going to increase the slashing, not risk, but like the slashing penalties. Because if you have like all of this ETH on a validator, then the slashing penalty, basically is. It is technically the same as if, let's say, for example, you have 100 validators right now, and then you consolidate them all into one validator and you get slashed. The penalty is pretty much the same from my understanding, and the risk is pretty much the same as well. But I think that the main concern arises behind these larger operators. What they like doing is that they like running validators in different places. For example, they might run 50 validators on AWS and 50 validators on Google Cloud, just as an example, right? Which kind of, and those validators would talk to their own individual full nodes, which spreads out the risk. Now, the thing is that like these operators are still going to be able to do this, and they're going to be able to do this with other tools such as DVT, or distributed validator technology, which I've talked about plenty of times on the refuel before, and I'm going to talk about actually today as well, and things like Puffer, which reduce slashing risk. There are many tools out there to reduce your risk of being slashed and reduce the consequences of it. So I don't think that's like a main concern there, and I actually think that the benefits of this max effective balance increase vastly outweigh any kind of potential negatives, because the main benefit obviously is taking a huge load off the network and making sure that the network remains stable well into the future. Because instead of having whatever it is right now, 900,000 validators, maybe we can collapse that down to even half of what it is right now, and then keep collapsing it down from there. And on top of that, it also makes smaller staking operators, and especially solo staking operators, much more profitable, and they're able to kind of compound their stake. Because right now, if you have like one validator as a solo staker, you have a 32 ETH validator, you can't spin up another validator, and you can't start earning rewards on your ETH rewards that you get from that existing validator until you hit another 32 ETH, right? Because there's that minimum balance of 32 ETH, but there's also the maximum effective balance of 32 ETH. Now, with this proposal, once it goes forward, hopefully in this next upgrade after Dencun, essentially what it allows for is allows for you to automatically just roll your rewards into your existing validator, and then you start earning staking rewards on that as well. So there's no need to wait for 32 ETH. And that alone is a huge boon to solo stakers, especially in the face of obviously these more efficient systems because they're larger, like Lido and other kind of providers out there, like the decentralized exchanges and things like that. That is a huge boon as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That's probably my favorite EIP from this list so far. My second favorite would probably be execution layer triggerable exits for stake. So how it works right now is that to exit a validator from the beacon chain, you have to do it through the consensus layer, which means that you have to have withdrawal credentials, and the only way that the validator gets exited is that the node operator has to exit it using those keys. Now, with execution layer triggerable exits, anyone could trigger withdrawal as long as they obviously follow the rules of the protocol, but anyone could trigger the withdrawal on the execution layer, which would make it much better from like a trustless withdrawal perspective. So you don't have to like trust that, for example, you go to Lido and say, I want to withdraw, and then the Lido node operators have to actually exit that validator on their own, whereas now you can do it at the execution layer yourself, and I mean it has to be integrated into the Lido stack, of course, but that's my second kind of favorite here as well. And then there's a bunch of other EIPs here as well. There are 3 related to SSZ or SSZification, which is a more technical thing. There's another EIP about reusing validator indices. Basically, every validator has an index assigned to it, and of course, when a validator is exited, that index is no longer usable because an exited validator cannot re-enter with the same index. They have to re-enter as a new validator, and they get a new index assigned to them. And really, this is just kind of tidying up some stuff. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference, but essentially you could reuse those old indices, the ones that have been exited, and it kind of like, I guess, like tidies up the code a little bit, I guess. But yeah, you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, and I'll also link the Ethereum Magicians thread as well there. But this is great. Like, I'm very much looking forward to this. I really, really hope that we get max effective balance into this upgrade. As I said, there are some concerns, and it's still in active discussion phase, but you know, I guess like I would have to say that we're probably not going to see Electra go live until the end of 2024, if I had to guess, to be honest. Like, if we get Dencun in March, yeah, I can't really see it happening until Q4 2024, but that's okay. I think it gives us plenty of time to test all of this stuff and to put in the research that needs to be put into it, as well as potentially other EIPs getting proposed as well here. But yeah, I'll leave that one for you guys to check out for yourself. Now, I did mention that I was going to talk about DVT a little bit here. Now, Lido's DAO has approved the deployment of a simple DVT module powered by Obel, I believe. So basically, this is a step towards rapidly diversifying the Lido Node Operator set and driving innovation within the Ethereum staking ecosystem. There's a blog post all about this, all about DVT and how it's going to be playing with Lido here. Now, the reason why I'm excited about DVT, but in the context of these staking providers, is because it does allow for a more diverse and more decentralized and more distributed node operator set. Because I've been saying this for a while on the Refuel and elsewhere. Actually, I was saying this on the panel that I was on with Daniel from Swell last week. But essentially, we need to, in the Ethereum ecosystem, as like our North Star when it comes to staking, is to optimize for the most amount of node operators on the network. Like, whether they be individuals or entities, whether they be big node operators or small node operators. Obviously, we would love to optimize more for the smaller ones, but generally, that would come with, you know, that's just a given, the more node operators you have on the network, right? And that is true decentralization. When you have a diverse, distributed, you know, geographically diverse and decentralized node operator set. Now, where that comes from is another thing. Like, is it going to come from Lido? Is it going to come from Rocket Pool? Is it going to come from solo stakers? Well, it's going to come from everywhere. And then you can go above that and then look at, okay, well, is there an entity that sits above those node operators that has potential control over those node operators or potential influence over them in terms of like governance? And when it comes to Lido and even Rocket Pool to a lesser extent, there is, right? Because it sits under one umbrella. Yes, Rocket Pool has thousands of node operators, but they are definitely under the Rocket Pool umbrella. So any changes affect them that are made to the Rocket Pool protocol, right? You know, outside of any changes made to the Ethereum protocol. Same is true for Lido. And Lido goes a step further where Right now, they don't have that many node operators, and they have obviously this governance process where the token isn't distributed very well. The governance process is quite centralized as part of the DAO, which isn't a Lido specific problem. Obviously, it's a problem of many DAOs within the ecosystem. But that's where you look at that. You look at the governance layer from there. Like so, even if Lido was to have like 1,000 node operators, right? It's all about where the power sits, right? And kind of what the separations of power are as well from there. Like how much influence does the DAO have? And I think that's the main point a lot of people miss, is that it's not necessarily about the node operators themselves, even though the node operators are important, and as I said, it's the North Star. It is definitely also about where those node operators sit and like what umbrella they sit under. Because some people will argue, I mean, I'm on the fence about this, but some people will argue that Lido has 36 node operators right now that you could say are 36 different entities, but some people will argue that no, it's actually one entity. It's just Lido, because Lido has that governance control there, right? And I actually sympathize with that argument, but I'm still on the fence about this. I don't honestly, like, I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I see the viewpoints on either side, but when you kind of like take it all together and you see, okay, well, let's increase the node operator account. Let's make sure they're independent of each other. But then, like, what umbrella are they sitting under? And then you say, okay, well, right now, 32% of all validators are sitting under the Lido umbrella. Yes, they're distributed into 36 different node operators, but they're still sitting under that one umbrella. Well, we don't think any provider should have that much market share on the network. And that's why we're pushing for more competition. We're pushing for people to not stake with Lido, to stake elsewhere. Because it's obviously just not very healthy for the network there. So yeah, that's a bit of a tangent there, I guess, on staking. But DVT is going to play a big part here, I think. Some people are on the fence about DVT as well. They say, is it really needed? Is it just going to add more risk? And I've talked about this on the refill before. I'm not going to rehash it here. But I think it's not strictly needed. Like, it's not a critical thing. But I think that Ethereum staking works without it, obviously. But I think that works, and then is different to, can we make Ethereum staking healthier, like overall? Can we make the node operator set healthier? Can we make node operators themselves healthier? And we can with DVT and other technologies and other techniques. So that's why I'm definitely very excited about that. But yeah, you can check out Lido's blog post here about this. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, as well as their little thread for you to check out. All right, so this has been a long time coming, but StakeWise V3 is now live on mainnet. You can stake your ETH with your favorite operators in the Vaults marketplace and explore DeFi opportunities with OS ETH, which is StakeWise's liquid staking token. Now, of course, I have said before that I am going to set up a StakeWise vault, and I haven't gotten around to doing it just yet, but I definitely want to do it, and it would be like a Daily Gwei kind of public goods vault where you guys could stake if you wanted to with me. I would run it all on my local hardware, and essentially the proceeds would go to the Protocol Guild or some other public goods. I mean, Protocol Guild is the obvious choice. As you guys know, I love the Protocol Guild, but yeah, just public goods generally here. But I think what StakeWise has done here is really cool, because it's basically a permissionless Lido. I guess like that's the best way to think about it, where you have these vaults, this vaults marketplace here, where you go browse vaults. I'm just on the website for those of you listening to the podcast here. You browse the vault, you connect your wallet, and then you can choose from all of these different vaults here, and anyone can set up a vault. It's completely permissionless from what I know. I don't think it's permissioned. It was permissioned during the beta, but I think it's definitely permissionless right now from what I've seen. And then you can just get started earning rewards. Maybe taking a cut if you want to take a cut of those rewards. And then doing whatever you want with them there. But you can see it's still early days here in terms of TVL, in terms of how many vaults there are. But yeah, I think this is really cool. This just increases the amount of node operators on the network. Now, actually, in saying that as well, there's one thing I forgot to mention before, is that there's going to be cross-pollination between node operators too. Like, you've got people that are node operators. So, for example, I mean, use me as an example, right? I'm a solo staker node operator, like pure solo staker, but I'm also a rocket pool node operator, right? And I would consider that one entity because I'm one person, right? I'm one entity. And you're going to see this a lot across the ecosystem where, for example, if I'm just looking at StakeWise right now, there are some names that I look at here and I'm like, okay, I've seen these names be part of other protocols. Like I know, for example, for sure, Crypto Manufacturer here is actually part of Lido as well, right? So there's going to be cross-pollination. And that means that you can't count these things as individual entities. You have to basically look at them as the same entity and then calculate it from there. And that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because it still does spread out that I guess like where the assets are, where the stake is. It does spread out the risk because these validators are with StakeWise now instead of Lido, for example, or they're with Rocket Pool instead of StakeWise and Lido. So it does spread that out. But at the same time, if the operator is the same, then you can't count that as separate operators. You have to count that as one node operator, one entity, which I think shouldn't be controversial. But that's how I kind of look at it there. But yeah, as I said, long time coming here for StakeWise V3 to be live on mainnet. You should definitely go check them out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, and I'll keep you guys updated on when I have my own vault set up here so that you can potentially stake with it, and then we can get some public goods funded, which would be very, very cool. All right, moving on. So Sigma Prime has a survey for Lighthouse users. So if you are using the Lighthouse consensus layer client, this is a user experience survey that you should definitely fill out. I use Lighthouse and I have not filled this out yet. I should definitely fill it out myself, but just wanted to give it a shout out to anyone running the Lighthouse client as a node operator. There, Sigma Prime wants your feedback. So I'll link that in the YouTube description below and you can go check that out for yourself. All right, I came across this really interesting tweet thread today from Decent Muse, and it's basically a tweet thread covering a lot of the stuff that you have probably heard before. I mean, if you've listened to the Refuel long enough, you've definitely heard all of this before. But what I like about this, and I've said this before, I like it when people other than myself or like the usual suspects start talking about topics that, myself and the usual suspects talk about all the time. And in this case, Decent Muse has done a thread all about the ETH thesis, right? The ETH investment thesis, essentially, and like what makes ETH valuable and ETH supply versus its demand and everything in between. You obviously have like the burn, the fee burn, the issue introduction that came with the merge, where the demand's going to come from, and he focuses a lot on L2s and how the demand's going to come from L2s wanting to use Ethereum block space and all that stuff in between there. So I just wanted to give a shout out to this thread because it's really great. It actually really nicely captures that whole kind of ETH thesis that myself and others have been talking about for quite a while now. And as I said, I like to see it coming from people that aren't the usual suspects, because it means the message is actually reaching new and different people out there, and it's actually reaching a different audience. Because I've got my audience, Bankless has their audience, the different people on Twitter have their audience, and then you have other people outside, like Fidelity, for example, did a report on this as well. I think it was Fidelity or Van Eck. I'm pretty sure it was one of those two, but it probably was Fidelity. But yeah, you've got all this kind of all this information being propagated out there, and it's all talking about things like the ETH investment thesis, Ethereum scaling strategy with layer 2s, and it's great to see people picking up the kind of like slack here, so to speak, and educating people about this. So I'll link this Twitter thread in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so something interesting that I came across on Twitter was Buddha, who is the co-founder of the Beacon Chain kind of ecosystem, or the Beacon Chain website that I've highlighted a bunch on the Refuel before, has built something called Ethereum GPT, which was trained with the consensus layer API specifications. If you're a builder looking to access specific data or just have a question about staking, you can try it at this URL here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. And it also uses Ben Edgington, I should say. Sorry, that's his full name. His ETH2 book as a preferred knowledge base. And I've covered that book before and about how it's like comprehensive knowledge on the Beacon chain there. But yeah, you can go here and basically ask away. You can basically ask things like, what are attestations, as a simple kind of example here. And Ethereum GPT will automatically generate an answer for you, searching through all the knowledge that it's been trained on, and spit out an answer. Now, it's doing that in the background here, but this is really cool. I like seeing the merger here, or the marriage between AI and Ethereum. I know it's been a big topic of discussion for a little while now. Bankless has done a bunch of episodes on it. I don't have like a strong opinion on how AI plays into crypto. I mean, I'm definitely not an AI expert or anywhere near that. I've been following along with the AI developments like pretty much all of you have. But when it comes to this sorts of stuff, when people kind of train these GPT bots on, or AIs, I should say, on specific knowledge and be able to spit out answers, I think it's really, really cool. Because like if I go back here and you can see that, here we go, it's actually answering the question of what are attestations, it will give you the answer here, and it'll actually give you the API endpoint as well. So, I mean, you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but just great to see people coming up with new and innovative tools to fetch Ethereum knowledge. All right, so Sandeep from Polygon is teasing a bunch of announcements over the next few weeks. So he says here on the 7th of December at Polygon Connect, which is a Polygon conference, Polygon will bring an inflection point in the history of blockchains in India. So teasing something out of India. There's a public demo for Polygon's next generation ZK product on the 14th of December. And on the 20th of December, they apparently are changing the game for real world assets and institutional adoption. Now, this may have something to do with Canto, which, as I mentioned before, was a layer 1, but they actually are a layer 2 now that's going to be building using Polygon's tech stack. So yeah, just a bunch of announcements to keep an eye out for when it comes to the Polygon ecosystem, which I'll definitely keep you guys updated on. But yeah, it's kind of funny because as we approach like the holiday period, December, Christmas, or New Year's, all that stuff, it's going to be interesting to see what the news cycle is like, because sometimes we're in a bull market during these periods, sometimes we're in a bear market, and obviously that has a big effect on things. Like in, for example, 2020, December 2020 or January 2020, we're in a raging bull market. Like we just kicked off, well, we were in a bull market for most of 2020, I would say, or at least half of it after the COVID dump. But then in December, things started really, really accelerating into January and February. And by May, ETH was at 4,400 and BTC was at whatever it was, 60K. And then obviously we had the crash from there. But this year, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I hope it is. I mean, I hope ETH can break out of its eternal crab range that it seems to be stuck in right now. But it seems like we have the ETF stuff happening as well. I mean, I talked about how the ETFs are probably going to be approved by Jan 10th, so that may change things. Maybe we do have a hot period during December and January, but at the same time, it's still early bull market things, right? It's still that transition period from crab to bull market. It's definitely not not to the point where we were in December 2020. We're definitely nowhere near that hot yet, because December 2020, I mean, BTC from memory was already at a new all-time high from there, blasted past 20K, and right now BTC, even though it's almost 40K, it's still not near 60K, and I don't or 70K actually is its last all-time high. So yeah, I mean, looking at it like that and contextualizing it, seems to me it'll be a little bit of a quiet period over the holiday period there, but we'll have to see. I mean, I'll keep doing refuels all the way through. I probably will only miss like Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, maybe, to be honest. We'll have to see what I get up to on those days, but I'm looking forward to seeing what people have to round out the year. And it's actually, like, as an aside, guys, I can't believe it's already almost the end of 2023. It's kind of crazy how fast time goes, even in bear markets, because crypto just moves so very, very quickly. But I am thinking 2024 is going to be really nice. I think it's going to be a really great year for the markets. I think it's going to be a great year for crypto adoption. I think so many pieces are aligning on things. I mean, especially after Dencun goes live and we have EIP 4844 live with the blob style transactions making L2s cheaper. L2s just continue to grow as well. Like, there's so much happening in this ecosystem right now. And to be fair, like, there are things happening outside of Ethereum as well, but obviously I focus 100% on Ethereum because it's just my jam. But generally, I'm very much looking forward to 2024 there. But anyway, we've still got a month left of this year, but I'll keep you guys updated on what Polygon comes out with over the next few weeks. All right, Nick here from the Fuel team. So Fuel is a team building a layer 2 on Ethereum. Shared today that the Fuel team did some hacking around DevConnect and built a working prototype of a WebAuthn P-256 enabled native transaction signing using account abstraction live on testnet. Now, in plain English, what does this mean? Well, basically it means that you can have a wallet with no seed phrase, no install, and biometrics enabled. Now, if you actually look at the video here, you can see how it works. You create a wallet, use Face ID to create the wallet with the passkey, and then immediately have a wallet where you can send and receive funds. As I said, there is no seed phrase, there is no install, and there is biometrics enabled here. This is, again, something that I've been covering a lot on the Refuel over the past few months about user experience and the future of wallets. This is the future of wallets for the vast majority of people. And I mentioned the other day how Proto Lambda had like a tweet about wallets that he had used, but he came at it from like an advanced user perspective and probably like more of a crypto native perspective. But the vast majority of people will never interact with crypto like the crypto natives do. They're going to interact with crypto through these sorts of things where they don't even see seed phrases, no installs, biometrics, just like they do with their banking app, for example, where they don't see any of the back end and how it's all secured. They just see like their balance, their details for people to send them money, their detail, and then be able to send other people money. And it's just as simple as that, right? And then interacting with different apps can be done in various different ways, but really that's how you achieve mass adoption. And that's true for like any technology. And it's funny because I was thinking about user experience generally today, and I thought to myself, I'm like, it's actually hilarious. Like the user experience of crypto is still terrible. If you compare it to something like Web 2, where I'm not comparing it to TradFi, because the TradFi user experience it definitely varies greatly from country to country, even because different countries have different banking systems and all that sorts of stuff, right? But if you actually just look at crypto UX and look at it as a completely new user, and say you want to do something on chain on Ethereum or on L2 and choose from the existing wallets that are out there, especially the popular ones, it's not bad, right? It's not bad in the sense that it's so terrible, it's so clunky, whatever. But it is nowhere near what it's like in Web 2 land when you use like a social media app, for example, where it's like a couple of clicks and away you go, right? And when it comes to banking apps, I mean, I know in Australia, especially the banking app, the Commonwealth Bank is the biggest bank in Australia. They have a really slick banking app, right? I mean, it's really great from a user experience perspective. And when you look at that, and then you look at the wallets that we have in crypto and the user experience overall there, it doesn't matter if it's on Ethereum or other chains. I mean, Ethereum isn't great, but other chains are absolutely just horrible. Like I've used the other chains and they're so bad. I mean, I used some of them recently, even like the Cosmos ecosystem is terrible. Like just I couldn't believe how bad it was, right? But in saying all of that, my main point here is that even though the UX is that bad, we've still been growing, right? Crypto has still been growing. It's not like crypto has been retracting or crypto growth has slowed down at all. No, crypto has continued to grow. As I mentioned the other day, layer 2s are continuing to grow. The asset prices aren't at all-time highs or anything like that, but we're having more and more on-chain usage. I mean, even in the bear market in this transition period, gas prices are up. And now I know people say, oh, gas prices going up are bad, screw Ethereum for the high gas prices. But to me, it's just like a barometer for demand. It just shows that there's demand there. And on the layer 2s, you can see all the activity on there. It just shows that there's demand for these products. There's people using them, and also bots and things like that as well. But that's a fact of life when it comes to anything online. But yeah, even though the UX has been typically not great, we've continued to grow. I mean, we've continued to improve the UX over time. And I think that we are in the golden age of UX at this point. Over the next couple of years, the way you interact with things is going to vastly change. I mean, unless you want to be an advanced user, you just have to use one of these really simple wallets that don't have a seed phrase shown to you. There's no install, biometric enabled natively in your phone, on your iPhone with Face ID and stuff like that. And you'll just have a much better experience than you've traditionally had within crypto, and a much less clunky experience as well. But at the end of the day, if you're an advanced user and you still want to have that clunky experience because you see that there's opportunity that's not available on maybe the easy to use experiences, then you're able to do that. It's all about giving the user choice, and that's what we have in crypto. And that's what definitely one of the things that excite me most about crypto is that you have user choice. But anyway, you can go check out this demo video. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so Ericsson put out a great tweet thread today all about sequences or roll-up sequences. Now, I'm not going to read through the thread, but he goes through a bunch of different misconceptions around what sequences are, why having a centralized sequencer is a big deal and why it's not a big deal, how different kind of sequences are designed, all that good stuff there. So I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. But really, like the two main negatives of a centralized sequencer, so only one party having a sequencer, is around censorship and MEV. So for example, with it being like a centralized sequencer, your censorship resistance guarantees are very low because at any point in time, that one sequencer could just censor your transactions at layer 2. But depending on which layer 2 you're on, you could still get your transactions through on layer 1. But you would have to use the layer 1 kind of validators to do that. And that obviously costs more, it's slower, right? But you can still do it. I mean, that's the whole point of a properly constructed rollup. You have that escape hatch. But if you want to use the L2 and you want to pay those cheaper fees, with a centralized sequencer, there's always the risk of censorship there. And if there's only one sequencer, well, then that's 100% censorship and you're not getting a transaction in at layer 2. And then the second thing is MEV. Whoever runs the sequencer can control the ordering of the transactions, can extract the MEV. So that's the second biggest issue with a centralized sequencer. But the nice thing about sequencers generally is that you don't need that many, and you only need one of them to be honest for your transaction to to actually be included. And I think the bigger issue is probably around MEV than it is around censorship, because MEV has the economic incentive attached to it, where there's not really an economic incentive for censorship unless you're doing it in the context of MEV, which just gets pretty crazy from there. But yeah, anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the details there. Or maybe you're not bored by the details, but Ericsson does a better job of explaining it. So I'll link his thread in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, this tab is a double up of the Ethereum GPT that I talked about before, so I'm going to close that one. Last thing to talk about was a list that I came across from Nathan Sexer here. It's a list of all of the Ethereum events happening in 2024. Now, this is a Google Doc. It's a live Google Doc. You'll be able to check it for any of the other Ethereum events that are happening. But essentially, there are a lot of Ethereum events happening around the world here, as you can see. Obviously, you can pick out the biggest ones like ETH Denver and Devcon, and maybe like ETH Global events as well, and things like that. But yeah, this would be a great list to keep track of to see which events that you want to be attending. And it's kind of funny because like there are multiple events each month, basically, starting in February. There's none in January from what I can see, but in February there's heaps of events. March, I mean, I think March has the most events so far in it, which is crazy. And then, yeah, I mean, I think every month, like April, May, June, July. No events in August so far, but maybe there will be. I think DAPCon is usually in August. So I don't think it's on that list right now, but we'll see. I mean, oh no, it is. It's in May apparently. Okay, they moved it around there. So yeah, none in August so far, none in December or January, but still, it's a full year of events. So if you are someone who loves to go to all the events, here's the list. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to check out. And a lot of people ask me what events I'm going to be attending. I've said it on the refuel, but just to rehash here. Definitely going to be attending ETH Global Sydney and all of the satellite events that happen around that. Definitely going to be attending DevCon in Southeast Asia. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would put my money on Vietnam at this stage of where that's going to happen. So I'm definitely going to be attending that. Other than that, I don't know. I may attend Permissionless 3, which is going to be happening in Salt Lake City in Utah. But other than that, I'm not sure at this point in time. I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, those are the main events that I'll be attending there. But anyway, we'll link that in the YouTube description below for you to check out. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.